Okay, so what is vitamin D? Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin that is also known as cholecalciferol, and it is absorbed through the sunlight exposure, and it is converted to the hormone form through the liver and the kidneys. So calciferol, it is a steroid hormone that primarily acts to increase the transcription of vitamin D responsive genes primarily in the gut. And these genes, mediate the increased absorption of calcium and phosphorus from the gut. It also plays a role in maintaining normal neuromuscular function and immunity. There is some evidence that vitamin D regulates apoptosis, cell proliferation, and inflammation as well. So types of vitamin D, mainly there are two types of vitamin D that are present in the human being, namely vitamin D2, that is ergocalciferol, and we have vitamin D3 that is also called as cholecalciferol. So vitamin D2 or ergocalciferol, it is the pharmaceutical form that is derived from ergol that is found in fungus, and the vitamin D3 that is cholecalciferol, it is the natural form that is found in foods and it is synthesized in the skin. Then we have certain metabolites and analogs of these substances that are also found in the human body. So vitamin D has a precursor known as prohormone, and it must be metabolized to the active form that is 1,2,5-hydroxyvitamin D in the human body. And the active form of vitamin D is known as calcitriol. So here we go. We have 7-dehydrocholesterol that is present in the skin, and the ultraviolet rays from the sunlight converts this 7-dehydrocholesterol into cholecalciferol. And this cholecalciferol goes to the liver. Along with this, the dietary vitamin D, and that is coming from the supplements that is in the ergocalciferol form. These two both go to the liver. The liver hydroxylates these forms and converts them into 2,5-hydroxyvitamin D, also known as calcidiol. Then it goes to the blood circulation, goes to the kidney converts this calcidiol into calcitriol, that is the active form of vitamin D. This calcitriol is involved in intestinal absorption of calcium, in increasing the bone resorption, and in decreasing the renal calcium and phosphate excretion. So exposure to sunlight, of course, is the key source of vitamin D, and it varies from person to person, from ethnicities, from different lifestyles that people adopt. It is the most important source of vitamin D, and it is dependent upon season, the latitude, the time of the day. Obviously, the parda observing females, the housewives, the institutionalized patients, those people who have office working hours from 8 till 5 p.m. Obviously, they have low exposure to sunlight, and the vitamin D levels in these patients are also low. So the absorption of vitamin D, as it is a fat-soluble vitamin, it is directly affected by fat malabsorption. And what are the cases where fat malabsorption can take place? These are the pancreatic insufficiency, cystic fibrosis, then we have cholestatic liver disease, celiac disease, and Crohn's disease. So all of those conditions that cause fat malabsorption are going to lead to the vitamin D malabsorption. Because it is a fat soluble vitamin, it needs proper and adequate absorption of fat for its absorption to take place. Then there are certain medications that accelerate the catabolism of vitamin D via the P450 enzymatic activity. And the main medications that do this are phenytoin, phenobarbital, carbamazepine. All three of these are antipsychotic drugs. जो लोग एंटीसाइकोटिक ड्रग्स ले रहे होते हैं, यूजुअली एंटीसाइकोसिस एक ऐसा ट्रीटमेंट है जो कि एक बहुत प्रोलॉन्ग ट्रीटमेंट है. So all those people who are taking these medications are going to develop vitamin D deficiency, because it is going to activate the P450 enzymatic activity. P450 is an enzymatic system present in the liver that detoxifies certain elements present in the body, and vitamin D is also catabolized by this system. So these three medications, along with this, we have isoniazid and rifampin. Both of these are anti-tuberculous drugs. So the treatment of tuberculosis, it is also a prolonged treatment. It can go up to 6 or 7 months. So all those people who are taking these antibiotics for tuberculosis, they are also prone to develop vitamin D deficiency. Then we have theophylline, that is a bronchodilator. So those people who are taking inhalers with theophylline in them are also going to develop, are more prone to develop vitamin D deficiency. Then we have so those people who are taking steroids are also prone to develop vitamin D deficiency. Okay, so 1 to 5.
वेबिनार यही होते हैं, तुम्हारे नहीं।
Okay, so 1 to 5 hydroxy vitamin D has certain effects, and these effects include increased calcium absorption in the gut, then increase in the parathyroid hormone mediated bone resorption. Then we have bone calcification, increase in bone calcification, then decreased renal calcium and phosphorus excretion. Then we have decrease in the parathyroid hormone secretion. So parathyroid hormone is again a hormone that is directly linked to vitamin D and calcium. So we have certain non-classical actions of vitamin D, and these include the suppression of cellular growth and proliferation. So it can regulate immunity also, it can regulate apoptosis, it can modulate immune responses. Now it can modulate immune responses. This means that it can decrease the susceptibility to infections. Then it can decrease the susceptibility to autoimmune disorders, for example, myasthenia, multiple sclerosis and type 1 diabetes mellitus. Then it also affects in transplantation immunity. Then vitamin D can also suppress the renin-angiotensin system. As you all know, that renin-angiotensin system is the main system that modulates hypertension. So vitamin D also has a role in suppression of hypertension. Then it can stimulate insulin secretion. Now, insulin secretion is very important, especially in the diabetics. So vitamin D also, it is correlated to the development of diabetes mellitus. Then it can control neuromuscular function and the brain. So here you can see that parathyroid, how the parathyroid hormone, it is related to vitamin D and the calcium levels. So what happens is that when we have low blood calcium levels, what is going to happen? The parathyroid hormone is going to be released. And this parathyroid hormone is going to act on two major organ systems. One is the kidney and one is the bone. So in kidney, what it is going to do, it is going to cause increased increased activation of vitamin D. As I told you before also, that the final active form of vitamin D, that is 1,2,5-hydroxycholecalciferol, it is formed in the kidney. So it is the parathyroid hormone is going to act on the kidney, and it is going to cause the activation of vitamin D. Then it is going to cause reduced calcium loss in the urine. It is going to act on the bone, and in the bone, it is going to stimulate the release of calcium from the bone. So the overall effect of it will be increase in vitamin D levels and also increase in the calcium levels. Then what is going to happen in case of deficiency? So impaired availability of vitamin D because of any cause. It can be because of inadequate dietary intake. जिस तरह हमारी सोसाइटी है, यूजुअली बिकॉज वी आर अ लो सोशो इकोनॉमिक कंट्री, हमारे सोसाइटी में, हमारे सेटअप में द मेजर कॉज ऑफ विटामिन डी, वन ऑफ द मेजर कॉजेज ऑफ विटामिन डी इज पुअर डाइटरी इनटेक. सो पुअर डाइटरी इनटेक, देन मैलएब्जॉर्प्टिव डिसऑर्डर्स, जिस तरह पहले मेंशन किया गया, सिस्टिक फाइब्रोसिस, Crohn's disease, अल्सरेटिव कोलाइटिस, ऑल ऑफ दीज आर मैलएब्जॉर्प्शन सिंड्रोम्स. So all of these syndromes can do what? They can lead to vitamin D deficiency. Then if a person is obese, then again, what can happen? Vitamin D deficiency can be caused. And again, if the person is taking certain medications, as I mentioned before, there are certain medications that interfere with the activity of vitamin D because they activate the P450 enzymatic activity. So what is going to happen? These medications, the people who are taking these medications for a prolonged period of time, they're also going to develop vitamin D deficiency. So if the liver is not functioning properly, there is impaired hydroxylation by the liver due to liver disease, any liver disease, acute liver disease or chronic liver disease. We can have fatty liver disease, we can have any alcoholic disorder, we can have CLD, chronic liver disease. All of these conditions will lead to decrease in the hydroxylation status of the liver. So the activation of vitamin D will not take place. Then increased hepatic catabolism due to medications that we discussed earlier also. Then impaired renal production of 1,2,5 hydroxy D. So as we discussed earlier, that the activation of vitamin D takes place in two steps. First, the liver converts it into the active form, and then the final active form is formed by the kidney. So if the kidney is not functioning properly, we have stage 4 of stage 5 CKD, then what is going to happen? There is going to be impaired renal production of 1,2,5 D. Then renal loss of vitamin D and vitamin D binding proteins that can occur in nephrotic syndrome. So all of these are the consequences and the main causes that can lead to the deficiency of vitamin D, the poor dietary intake, then malabsorptive syndromes, then certain medications, the lack of functioning of liver, stage 4 or stage 5 CKD. All of these can lead to what? They can lead to the decrease in vitamin D levels. So what is going to happen when we have this deficiency? There is going to be reduced intestinal absorption of calcium and phosphorus. So main function of vitamin D was to cause the absorption of calcium and phosphorus from the intestine. So when we have a deficiency of vitamin D, there is going to be reduced intestinal absorption of calcium and phosphorus. Then what can happen? Hypophosphatemia, that precedes hypocalcemia. So hypocalcemia and hypophosphatemia both will take place when there will be poor absorption of calcium and phosphorus. So both of these substances will be low in the serum. Then what can happen? Secondary hyperparathyroidism. So parathyroid hormone, as I discussed earlier, it is directly related to vitamin D levels. So deficiency can lead to secondary hyperparathyroidism. When the calcium level will be low, there will be more secretion of parathyroid hormone. So as a result, we will have hyperparathyroidism that will be secondary to the vitamin D levels. Then we will have bone demineralization, then osteomalacia and rickets. So all of these are the consequences of reduced vitamin D levels in the human body. What are the sources of vitamin D? The sources of vitamin D are, of course, the exposure to sunlight. Then we have dietary sources, dietary supplements. So all of these are the sources of sunlight, and the most cheapest and easily available source is the sunlight. Then the dietary sources, we have certain dietary sources that certain food elements that are rich in vitamin D levels. Then who are the risk groups? Now, the at-risk groups include mainly the elderly people. So the elderly people, in them, the vitamin D stores, they decline with age. Then winter, the people living in those areas where the winter season is prolonged. In the winters, obviously, इतनी धूप नहीं निकलती या इस तरह का environment होता है, the sunlight exposure is less. So the people who are living in the areas where the winter season is prolonged, they are also prone to develop vitamin D deficiency. Then housebound mainly housewives हैं और कोई इस तरह का वो patients हैं इस तरह के जो कि mental asylums में रह रहे हैं या प्रोलॉन्ग उनकी हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन की हिस्ट्री है जो कि बाहर इतना नहीं जा पा रहे और उनकी जो सनलाइट का एक्सपोजर है बहुत मिनिमल है और इसके साथ में पुअर न्यूट्रिशनल इंटेक भी है. सो दीज आर आल्सो द एट रिस्क ग्रुप्स. ये एट रिस्क ग्रुप्स हैं जहां हमें विटामिन डी की स्क्रीनिंग भी करनी पड़ेगी, उसकी सप्लीमेंटेशन भी करनी पड़ेगी. सो इम्पेयर्ड एब्जॉर्प्शन किन में हो रही होगी? जो कि मैल एब्जॉर्प्टिव सिंड्रोम्स के पेशेंट्स हैं जिनमें भी फैट मैल एब्जॉर्प्शन हो रही है, उसमें ऑब्वियसली विटामिन डी की डेफिशिएंसी होगी. देन वी हैव सीकेडी, chronic kidney disease. If the kidney is not functioning properly, then what is going to happen? The activation of vitamin D will not take place. So CKD along with all these make the people prone to develop vitamin D deficiency. Then we have children, the breastfed children. Obviously, if the mother is deficient in vitamin D, the breastfed infant, the exclusively breastfed infants, they are going to develop vitamin D deficiency. Then variable dietary intake. अगर जो ग्रोइंग चिल्ड्रन हैं जिनमें सबसे ज्यादा विटामिन डी की जरूरत है, अगर उनकी डाइटरी इंटेक ठीक नहीं है, देन अगेन दे आर प्रोन टू डेवलप दिस डेफिशिएंसी. Vegetarians which have lower meat content and particularly fish, because fish is a very rich source of vitamin D, so they are also prone to develop the vitamin D deficiency. Then certain ethnic backgrounds. Then women treated for osteoporosis. अगर कोई फीमेल है जो ऑस्टियोपोरोसिस की ट्रीटमेंट ले रही है तो ऑब्वियसली उसमें विटामिन डी की डेफिशिएंसी भी साथ में होगी. इसके अलावा अगर जो इस तरह के एथनिसिटीज हैं या जो डार्क स्किन्ड पीपल हैं, they are also more prone to develop the vitamin D deficiency because जो मेलानिन पिगमेंट है जो स्किन को डार्क बनाता है, जब वो स्किन में ज्यादा होगा तो वो विटामिन डी की एब्जॉर्प्शन जो स्किन में हो रही है उसके साथ इंटरफेयर करेगा. So the fair-skinned people have less instances of development of vitamin D deficiency as compared to the dark-skinned people. Then the hospitalized patients. Now these patients also need extensive care. इनमें multiple deficiencies होंगी and vitamin D deficiency is the very important deficiency that can occur over here. So depending upon the age of patient, the sunlight exposure, the intake किस तरह हो रही है, NG tube से feeding हो रही है, parenteral feeding हो रही है, किस तरह से हो रही है, then renal injury का patient तो नहीं है, कोई burn victim तो नहीं है. Burn victim में obviously स्किन लॉस हो गया, जब स्किन लॉस हो गया तो डायरेक्टली जो विटामिन डी हमें मिल रही है सनलाइट से वो नहीं मिल पाएगी. So it was seen in the US studies that 22 to 42% of the hospitalized patients, they were prone to develop vitamin D deficiency. Then we have certain clinical syndromes that are associated with this deficiency. The first one is osteomalacia. So what is osteomalacia? Usually सभी के घर में females होती हैं और सभी को osteomalacia के एक बहुत ही एक हमारे society में it is a pandemic, osteomalacia. So what is it? The softening of bones due to impaired mineralization, due to low calcium and phosphate production. So what happens in osteomalacia? The bones become soft because of the demineralization and low calcium and phosphate content. So the symptoms of this they include generalized bone pains, muscular weakness, then weight loss. And it was seen in one study that 93% of the 150 people who were recruited in the study with the age groups between 10 to 65 years, which were presenting with muscle aches and bone pains, were deficient in vitamin D. And 28% of them had severe vitamin D deficiency. So this is directly telling you that how much the instances of osteomalacia and bone pains and all these symptoms are directly linked to vitamin D deficiency. Then lab tests, what will they show in cases of osteomalacia? We will have low calcium and phosphate levels, high alkaline phosphatase levels, and the X-rays will show diffuse bone lucencies. So what are the other associated clinical conditions? We have muscle weakness and falls. So proximal muscle weakness, chronic muscle aches, myopathy, and increase in falls. All this is associated with vitamin D deficiency. And it was seen that daily 700 to 800 intake of vitamin D, international units per day, in a vitamin D deficient elderly population can significantly reduce the incidence of falls. So it was seen in certain studies that when the elderly people were supplemented with vitamin D between the doses of 700 to 800 international units per day, it was seen that the incidence of falls was greatly reduced. So a meta-analysis of 5 randomized controlled trials state that increased vitamin D intake reduced the risk of falls by 22%. And randomized control trial residents that were receiving 800 international units of vitamin D3 per day along with calcium had a 72% reduction in the risk of falls as compared with placebo. So this is telling you how much vitamin D is deficient in the elderly and how much it is important to supplement them with vitamin D as well as with calcium. So then we have bone density and fractures. So the risk of osteoporosis may be reduced with adequate intake of vitamin D and calcium. So first we talked about osteomalacia, now we have osteoporosis. So osteoporosis may be reduced with the adequate intake of vitamin D and calcium. And studies have supported the fact that vitamin D at doses between 700 to 800 international units per day, along with calcium supplementation, effectively increased the hip bone density and it reduced the fracture risk in these patients. Whereas the lower vitamin D doses had less effect. So vitamin D, it is directly related to bone strength and bone well-being. And especially in the elderly, it is very important to diagnose the vitamin D deficiency and to supplement them with vitamin D levels. So a meta-analysis of 7 randomized controlled trials evaluating the fracture risk in patients that were given 400 international units of vitamin D3 per day revealed little benefit. इसका मतलब ये है कि 400 international units is not the sufficient dose अगर आप at risk patients जो हैं जो कि पेशेंट्स प्रोन है टू डेवलप विटामिन डी डेफिशिएंसी, उनको अगर सप्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं तो 400 इंटरनेशनल यूनिट्स दिए गए उनको और उसके बाद देखा गया कि उनके ऊपर कोई खास फर्क नहीं पड़ा. कुछ और स्टडीज में 700 टू 800 इंटरनेशनल यूनिट्स जो कि एक स्टैंडर्ड डोज सेट है विटामिन डी की वो देके देखा गया एंड इट वाज सीन दैट द रिलेटिव रिस्क ऑफ हिप फ्रैक्चर एंड द नॉन वर्टेब्रल fractures they were reduced by 26% and 23%. So this is telling you that what the exact dose of vitamin D is. ये different studies से comparisons हैं जिनमें कम dose दे के भी patients को check किया गया और कुछ हैं जिनमें आइडियल डोज जो जिसको हम लोडिंग डोज कहते हैं वो दे के भी चेक किया गया. सो इट वाज सीन दैट द 700 to 800 international units per day was the ideal dose. Okay, so then role in cardiovascular diseases. What is the role of vitamin D in cardiovascular diseases? Now ये एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग और ऐसा डोमेन है विटामिन डी का जहाँ फर्दर रिसर्च की भी बहुत ज्यादा स्कोप है. So it was seen that
की बात कर रही हैं.
It was seen that vitamin D deficiency activates the
जी
इनामदारिश मेडिसिन ये बुक ली थी मैंने चेंज
म्यूट हो गया है, प्लीज म्यूट कर दीजिए. ओके. So it was seen that vitamin D deficiency activates the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system and it can predispose to hypertension and left ventricular hypertrophy. So increase in the parathyroid hormone also which increases insulin resistance, that is secondary to down regulation of the insulin receptors, is associated with diabetes, hypertension, inflammation and increased cardiovascular risk. So there are multiple studies that have proved the relationship of vitamin D with cardiovascular disease, but still this is the domain of vitamin D जहाँ further research की बहुत ज़रूरत है. So if anyone wants to do further research in vitamin D, these are certain aspects of vitamin D that you can cover in your research. Certain studies that are needed for evaluation of interactions between vitamin D and CVD. These include certain prospective studies to prove that vitamin D deficiency results in increased cardiovascular disease events. Then we need well-designed studies to determine the mechanisms for increased risk of vitamin D deficiency and cardiovascular disease events. Then prospective studies to prove that adequate vitamin D replacement decreases cardiovascular disease events. And studies to determine the optimal formulation, dosing and target levels. So अगर कोई vitamin D पे further research करना चाहता है, so here are some research ideas for you. You can go for one of these, and these researches are have a lot of scope nowadays. The interaction of vitamin D with cardiovascular disease events. So it was seen in Finland, a study was conducted in which 10,366 children were enrolled, and they were given 2,000 international units of vitamin D per day during their first year of life, and then they were followed up for 31 years. It was seen that the risk of development of type 1 diabetes mellitus was reduced by 80%. And in subset analysis among children with vitamin D deficiency, the risk was increased by 200%. And the proposed mechanism for this association between vitamin D and diabetes is that the 1,2,5-hydroxyvitamin D produced in the kidney enters into the circulation and stimulates insulin secretion in the islet cells of pancreas. तो ऐसा देखा गया था कि जो हाई एल्टीट्यूड्स पे लोग रह रहे हैं, जो कि हिली एरियाज में रह रहे हैं, उनमें डायबिटीज मेलाइटिस का इंसिडेंस कम होता है. तो इसमें रिसर्चर्स ने सोचा कि ऐसा क्यों होता है कि हाई एल्टीट्यूड का क्या ताल्लुक है डायबिटीज के साथ. सो दीज पीपल वर इवैल्यूएटेड एंड इट वाज सीन दैट these people what was happening over here was that high altitude पे vitamin D intake बहुत ज़्यादा है क्योंकि sunlight exposure बहुत ज़्यादा है. और उसकी वजह से क्या होता है कि ये विटामिन डी जब जाती है ब्लड स्ट्रीम में तो ये आइलेट्स ऑफ लैंगरहैंस जो है पैंक्रियास के सेल्स उनको एक्टिवेट करती है और इंसुलिन सिक्रीशन कराती है. When this takes place, what happens that the risk of diabetes it is reduced. Okay, so then we have the relationship of vitamin D and upper respiratory tract illness. So it was seen that in one study, it was seen that 18,883 subjects were enrolled in the study. And it was seen that in those subjects in which the vitamin D levels were low, they were more prone to develop upper respiratory tract illnesses. So vitamin D has an inverse correlation with upper respiratory tract illnesses. Then role in cancer prevention. It is seen that low intake of vitamin D and calcium has been associated with increased risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, colon, ovarian, breast, prostate, and other cancers. So anti-cancer activity of vitamin D किस तरह explain हो सकती है? इस तरह explain होती है that vitamin D it regulates a nuclear transcription factor that controls the cell growth, differentiation, and apoptosis. Although ये एक association prove हो चुकी है between vitamin D and cancer prevention, but this association is not so strong. Again, there's a lot of domain for research in this subject also, in this aspect also. So vitamin D is not currently recommended for reducing the cancer risk. Then we have association with autoimmune disease. So vitamin D supplementation is associated with a lower risk of autoimmune disease. And in a case control study of 7 million US military personnel, it was seen that high circulating levels of vitamin D were associated with a lower risk of multiple sclerosis. And similar associations were also seen for vitamin D levels and rheumatoid arthritis. Then we have role in reproductive health, vitamin D deficiency in the pregnancy. The pregnant females, it also has a 5-fold risk of preeclampsia and of course early childbirth. And so the vitamin D supplementation is very important in the pregnant females. Okay. Impaired availability of vitamin D, obviously now how this deficiency is occurring. Impaired availability of vitamin D because of lack of sun exposure. It can be seasonal, it can be because of malabsorptive states, impaired liver hydroxylation, impaired renal hydroxylation. Then we have end organ insensitivity to vitamin D metabolites, that is hereditary vitamin D resistant rickets. So इसमें क्या होगा कि organs they become resistant to vitamin D and its metabolites. So they stop responding to vitamin D. Then the patients who are taking glucocorticoids, because again they inhibit intestinal vitamin D dependent calcium absorption. So all of these are the factors that can lead to this deficiency. And other conditions that are linked with vitamin D deficiency, that are schizophrenia, depression, and reactive airway disease. So now, how to screen the patient and how to assess the patient. So the patient characteristics that are required are that the healthy people with no risk factors and who are symptom free, they require no investigations and they only require the lifestyle advice. Now risk factors only. Risk factors only means all those people who are prone to develop vitamin D deficiency, the housewives, the females who are observing parda, then the people who are working in offices from morning till afternoon, who have then elderly people, then females in particular after menopause. These are the risk factors. So although उनको अभी vitamin D deficiency develop नहीं हुई, but they are at risk of developing the deficiency. They require lifestyle advice and they also need long-term preventive therapies. Then the risk factors and the sign and symptoms. What is it? The lifestyle advice, risk factors भी हैं और sign and symptoms भी हैं. उसमें क्या होगा कि कोई भी elderly people हैं या जो भी आप sign and symptoms के साथ present कर रहे हैं, generalized muscle aches, myalgias, myopathies, इन सब के साथ present कर रहे हैं, bone aches, bone pains, falls, fractures. So they need lifestyle advice, investigations, therapeutic intervention also, and long-term preventive treatments are also required in these patients. Then we should, how should we go for screening? Because vitamin D test is quite expensive. So we should be very clear who are the people who we want to screen and who are the people who should not be screened for vitamin D levels. So the vitamin D supplementation ka rule of it is always, it follows the rule of thumb. Now nanogram per ml versus अगर हम nanomole per ml की बात करें तो 2.5 nanomole per liter is equal to 1 nanogram per ml. And the rule of thumb is that for every 100 international units of vitamin D3 ingested, the blood level of 2,5-hydroxy vitamin D increases by 1 nanogram per ml. So अगर 100 international units किसी ने ingest किए हैं per oral, so the level of vitamin D is going to rise by 1 nanogram per ml. Then who are the people who should be screened? The elderly people, the housebound or the institutionalized people, then the patients who have malabsorption syndromes, patients with osteoporosis, osteopenia, then the chronic liver and chronic kidney disease patients, then patients with non-specific musculoskeletal pains, जो कि vague musculoskeletal pains, myalgias, myopathies के साथ present कर रहे हैं. Then the patients who are taking certain medications that induce P450 enzymatic activity, जिसका हमने पहले भी कई दफा जिक्र किया है. The medications that are inducing the P450 enzymatic activity, these patients are also prone to develop vitamin D deficiency. Then obese and pregnant women. So these are all the people who should be screened for vitamin D levels. So the tests that should be performed along with the vitamin D levels, these are renal function tests to exclude the renal causes, liver function tests to exclude the any liver disease. Then we have parathyroid hormone testing, then calcium phosphate and alkaline phosphatase levels. So these tests, all of these tests should also be performed along with the vitamin D levels. And of course, the 2,5-hydroxy vitamin D concentration is the diagnostic. Then how to interpret these levels and these findings? The deficiency is when the level of this 2,5-hydroxy vitamin D is less than 25 nanomoles per liter. So if a person is deficient, the actions that we should perform are to replace the vitamin D. Then we should give the initial loading dose followed by the maintenance dose. So this is the population जहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा intervention की ज़रूरत है. That is, the deficiency of vitamin D has occurred in this patient. We should replace the vitamin D levels. Then we should give the lifestyle advices, and we should consider long-term preventive and the therapies and maintenance doses also. So the insufficiency is labeled when the vitamin D levels are between 25 to 50 nanomoles per liter. So insufficient होगी तो consider replacement. Agar patient is taking glucocorticoids, the patient has osteoporosis or osteopenia, second degree hyperparathyroidism, then hypocalcemia and CKD. So इसमें हम not always supplementation is required. Only supplementation is required if the patient is more prone to go into the deficient state. So now replete. Now replete is when the level of vitamin D is more than 50 nanomoles per liter. So in this, now there is enough vitamin D in the body, there is no need for replacement, or if the patient is already taking certain medication, जिसकी वजह से ये level achieve हुआ है, then we should give the maintenance dose only. Then we have toxic levels. Toxic is when the level goes beyond 150 nanomoles per liter. So over here, we should stop any treatment that the patient is taking, and we should check the calcium levels also. So coming to the treatment, the preventive measures that can be taken, these include the sensible sun exposure, 55 to 30 minutes per day. And then we should go towards intervention, that is 50,000 international units of vitamin D2 every 1 to 4 weeks and 1,000 international units of vitamin D3 per day. And we have 100,000 international units of vitamin D3 once every 3 months. So these are the preventive measures. Then coming to vitamin D preparations. Preparations में क्या है? We have tablets, we have capsules of vitamin D, we have granules or sachets of vitamin D. Then we have certain syrups and soft gel capsules, and we have solution in oil preparation. Solution in oil में क्या होगा? Oil हम साथ में देंगे vitamin D के to mediate the absorption of vitamin D. Okay, so what we are going to do in cases of deficiency? We will give the oral therapy. Deficiency, as I told you before, jab levels less than 25 nanomoles ho, then we will label it as deficiency. So oral therapy will include the first line agents that will include the vitamin D3 preparation of the loading dose. इसमें होगी 800 international units per day capsule, and 4 per day. So not per day, 800 into 4 means we will give the dose of 800 international units capsules in 4 parts per day. Then we can give the 3,200 international units daily for 8 to 12 weeks. So 800 is the initial loading dose. We can multiply it by 4 and give it daily, or we can make it 3,200 daily, or we can continue this treatment for 8 to 12 weeks. Then the second line therapy is we can give the vitamin D3 20,000 units per week for 8 to 12 days. So 8 to 12 weeks. So we can give the per day यानी daily dose दे सकते हैं, उसमें 800 international units 4 दफा दिन में देंगे, या फिर हम second line therapy की तरफ जा सकते हैं. उसमें हम क्या करेंगे? 20,000 units per week for 8 to 12 weeks. Then we have injection therapy. Injection therapy में usually we give the vitamin D2. तो D2 की जो नॉर्मल हमारे पास एंड्रॉप डी या सनी डी या इस तरह के नामों से जो प्रेपरेशंस आती हैं, दैट इज 200,000 international units of vitamin D. So इंजेक्शन थेरेपी यूजुअली उनको दी जाती है जिनको फैट मैलएब्जॉर्प्शन सिंड्रोम हो, या जिनकी पर ओरल जो कोई वॉमिटिंग का पेशेंट है या इस तरह का है कि उसकी जो एब्जॉर्प्शन और जो जीआईटी है दैट इज अफेक्टेड इन सम सॉर्ट ऑफ वे, या फिर जो सीकेडी के पेशेंट्स हैं या सीएलडी के पेशेंट्स हैं, टू बाईपास द डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम वी कैन गिव इट इंट्रामस्कुलर डोज. So daily requirements क्या है इन पेशेंट्स की? From birth to 12 months of age, that is 400 IU per day. Then children 1 to 13 years, we have 600 international units of vitamin D. Then in 14 to 18 years, we can give 600 international units again, and 19 to 70 years, again 600 international units per day. And in adults 71 years and older, we need 800 international units per day. In pregnant and breastfeeding women, we can give 600 international units per day. So the combined supplementation agar deni ho along with calcium, it is unnecessary in primary vitamin D deficiency, and dual replacement it can be given in cases of severe deficiency that is accompanied by hypocalcemia leading to secondary hyperparathyroidism. Then appropriate for the management of osteoporosis and of course in the elderly people. So monitoring kis tarah karni hai? After 1 month we will have to repeat the bone and renal profile. After 3 months we can go for bone and renal profile once again. We can check the vitamin D levels and the plasma parathyroid hormone also. So once the vitamin D replacement is optimized, no further measurement of vitamin D is necessary. So once the patient reaches the level that is up between 30 to 50 nanomoles per liter, then no further testing of vitamin D is required until the patient presents again with certain signs and symptoms. Okay, so vitamin D intoxication ये कब होगी? जब levels of vitamin D they go above 150 nanomoles per liter, and the common symptoms of it are anorexia, nausea and vomiting, and polyuria, polydipsia, weakness, and pruritus can occur. And the lab abnormalities, these include acute kidney injury and hypercalcemia along with hyperparathyroidism. और इसमें ट्रीटमेंट क्या करनी होगी? We will have to stop the vitamin D and low calcium diet and acidify the urine and give the steroids. So the take home points of all this that we have discussed today is that vitamin D deficiency is very common. Almost all of the females in our society are deficient in vitamin D, and the 2,5-hydroxy vitamin D is has a lot of benefit in the bone health. Then vitamin D is potentially an independent predictor of the risk of cardiovascular disease events, then hypertension, cancer, diabetes mellitus, and all-cause mortality, along with upper respiratory tract illnesses. Then at least 800 international units of vitamin D per day are required, especially in the elderly people and those who are at the risk of development of vitamin D deficiency. Then sensible skin exposure is a great way to maintain the vitamin D levels. A strong evidence is there to support the fact that vitamin D deficiency, a strong evidence should be there. अगर आपने vitamin D screening की तरफ जाना है, because it is an expensive test, तो ऐसा नहीं कि हर गरीब बंदा जो आपके पास आ रहा है OPD में या कहीं पे भी आप उसको vitamin D level लिखते हैं. So you should have a strong evidence to support the screening. Then supplementation is necessary, especially in the elderly individuals, because हमारी society में किसी भी elderly अगर कोई we will go for screening of 10 people, उसमें से 9 will be deficient in vitamin D. So it is very necessary to supplement the elderly people with vitamin D. Then the controversy still remains as to whether new vitamin D goals should be set. जिस तरह पहले हमने बात की, इस तरह कैंसर थेरेपी में भी vitamin D नहीं दिया जा रहा, इसी तरह कार्डियोवैस्कुलर डिजीज में कितनी लेवल ऑफ विटामिन डी दिया जाना चाहिए, कितना उसका लोडिंग डोज होनी चाहिए, कितना टारगेट लेवल होना चाहिए. So such goals are still to be set. And then we have new recommendations regarding vitamin D levels that are going to come in the coming years. So that was all from my side. Thank you very much for listening to it. And if you have any questions, you can write in the chat box. I will answer them for you as much as I can. Any question from anyone? Yes. Okay, any question, beta? No? Okay, so thank you very much for giving me your time and listening to this presentation, and I hope it will benefit you. And vitamin D, as it is a pandemic, हमारे घर में हर कोई, yes.
Yeah, it was nice. Webinar administration.
ओके सो हमारे सोसाइटी में कोई ऐसा घर मुश्किल से ही मिलेगा जहाँ विटामिन डी डेफिशिएंसी ना हो. So it is very important for all of us to get our elderly people screened for vitamin D levels, and we should all have progress towards a healthier society, and this should be the goal, the take home message for today's webinar. So thank you all of you for your time, and inshallah I hope we will meet again. If still you have any questions, you can send me an email or you can contact me. I will try to answer them for you. So I'm signing off. Thank you very much for your time. Allah Hafiz.